Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping the week's nerdy news from a brand that means quality to middling reviews and apathetic burnout. Reference to our lead story tonight. My name is Mike Gibson. With me, as always, is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, Mike, I'm always around for apathetic burnout. Here we go.
Unfortunately, I'm getting pretty used to apathetic burnout.
Yeah.
That's right. We got a pretty big Marvel chunk stuff to talk about this week.
Yeah, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly for Marvel this week.
Yeah, for sure. Plus a couple trailers we're going to talk about, some comics news, some comics reviews, and we're bringing back our one-shots segment for the first time since the writers and actors strike. We have enough news to put couple tiny little stories out there and not really spend too much talking about them. So a couple one-shots at the end of this episode.
We have enough news to not talk about all the news.
We have enough news to just gloss over a couple things and not find ways to talk about them for 15 minutes each, which we are good at.
Yeah,
clearly
apparently
good at. When we thought we'd be pumping out 20-minute episodes during the strikes, and we didn't.
No,
we hit
we didn't.
an hour and a half more than I'm comfortable with. I say. This podcast is sponsored by Funky Town Comics in Camillus, New York. Check them out, just like we are every week. Lots of great stuff going on down there, as always. Any other bit of business? Steve and I want to remind everybody before we dive in here. Steve and I will be at Saratoga Comic-Con, November 17th and 18th.
Yeah, 17th, 18th,
Yeah.
19th.
Yep.
I think the show might be the 18th and 19th.
That's true. The show is just
We'll
Saturday
be there
and
at
Sunday.
17th.
We'll
You
be
guys
there
can't
Friday
see
night.
us, but we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there Friday night. And we'll be there all day Saturday and Sunday as well. You can check us out. It'll be it's not going to be a Multiverse Report booth. It's going to be my booth as a comic book writer. So just look for a big purple banner that says Mike Gibson at the top of it. That's where I will be. And Steve will be there with me. And we can talk about comics that I've written. We can talk about any kind of nerdy news that you want to talk about. So hit us up there. One last, not least, it's not nerdy related, but however, those of you that are in the Syracuse, New York area, I just want to say that my band, The Action, has been around for a long time. Just announced this past week that we are celebrating our 25th anniversary at a show December 1st at a place in Syracuse called Funk and Waffles. $10 at the door. There's one opening band. There's a high school band that's opening for us that should be great. High school punk band called Falmouth. So you can check them out and check us out. We'll be playing songs spanning our entire 25-year career. Our 25-year friendship hobby. Songs we haven't played in a long time. And maybe a few special guests, people that used to be in the band, joining us. So if that means anything to anybody that's listening, you should check us out December 1st. Funk and Waffles, $10 at the door. Doors at 7, show at 8.
It means a lot to me, Mike, but you should have done it on a day I can be there.
You can't be there, Steve?
No, I'm going to be in Philly that weekend.
No. All right, we'll reschedule.
I think getting the 5 of you together is probably a little more important than me being there.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, that's a bummer, Steve. You will be missed.
My wife will be there. I won't.
Oh, good. She's the only one I really care about anyway.
Exactly.
Just kidding, of course. I believe that's all the business to get out of the way. Strike Watch, possibly the second to last episode of Strike Watch, assuming that if there is a deal, we'll report on that deal. But within the last week, the studios have boasted giving a, quote, last and final offer, best last and final offer to Screen Actors Guild.
They haven't said that 17 times already.
No, well, the last time that they said that was the deal that they gave to the writers.
Okay.
And that's the deal that the writers took. So hopefully this is a good deal. I mean, we'll find out if they accept it this week. We'll find out all the details of it. I heard some rumblings that the studios caved more on their AI stance as a way to get the actors to give up or to reduce their demands for the streaming residuals or reduce their streaming residual claim, I guess, a little bit. So that's the rumor that I heard.
I mean,
I don't
that's
know.
a smart tactic.
It's a very smart tactic.
The biggest hanging up. Yeah, we're good at this talking thing.
Yeah.
There we go. The biggest hang up of this whole thing was like the actors didn't want to be replaced by computer generated nothingness.
They wanted to still have jobs.
Right. Usually comes in handy.
Sure. Yeah. So
gainful employment is on the top of things to do when you're in a strike situation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The thing that you want the most is to start working again under better conditions. So hopefully that happens, and we hear about it, hopefully tomorrow, and this thing can be over and behind us. Everyone gets back to work making all the stuff that we love to watch. Speaking of stuff that we love to watch, boy, howdy, was there a big article dropped by Variety this week. Variety, I believe the article was called Marvel in Crisis. And it kind of details a lot of stuff that Steve, you and I have been talking about for a while. And I just want to say that I think it was 2 weeks ago on this podcast, I spent some time talking about how I was under the impression that people at Marvel were probably more panicky and under a lot more stress than they're letting on. Just about with everything that's happening to them. They're probably, I think I said something like, I think they're having a harder time than they're allowing the public to know. And according to this article, I was very right. Very right. Marvel in Crisis. Now, the article is a very well-written piece. It tackles a lot of different subjects. We're going to kind of hit the big points of each of them. Now, I encourage you to go read the actual article if you're interested in details. There's some things I don't agree with, really, or think that maybe you're getting blown out of proportion. But for the most part, pretty solid piece. Pretty solid piece. And so some of this isn't necessarily news as much as it is like kind of confirmation of the vibes that we've been getting from Marvel Studios of late in response to their kind of lackluster phase 4 and 5 and dipping in quality and dipping in, or a lot of people have seen it as a dip in quality. A lot of and the world has noticed a dip in box office returns and just general interest in the Marvel brand. So starting off with that, they kind of reference just this general kind of audience apathy towards the MCU currently, that, whether it's just general superhero fatigue or blockbuster fatigue. And, we've talked a bunch of times recently about this past summer, a lot of movies underperformed at the box office that should have been surefire hits. Maybe it was too crowded of a summer. Maybe people are sick of big budget action movies. Maybe that's just, trends are swinging away from that. Who knows? But this article claims the big problems for Marvel started in 2020 when Disney was more or less desperate to maintain their stock prices and also push Disney Plus, still a very relatively new streaming service. They wanted to push their streaming numbers by just shoving a ton of content onto Disney Plus, especially after the pandemic hit and people weren't going to the movie theater anymore. They wanted Disney Plus to be the app that everybody was watching. So they wanted to just keep shoveling Marvel content at Disney Plus. And a quote from the article says, according to the plan, there would never be a lapse in superhero fare with either a film in theaters or a new television series streaming at any given moment. But the ensuing tsunami of spandex proved to be too much of a good thing, and the demands of churning out so much programming taxed the Marvel apparatus. Moreover, the need to tease out an interwoven storyline over so many disparate shows, movies, and platforms created a muddled narrative that baffled viewers. Steve,
Yeah.
has there ever been a more accurate sentence ever written in the history of film reporting?
No, I was gonna say that tracks. Like I
That
got
tracks
nothing
big time.
nothing past that. That seems accurate.
That's just like a summary of everything that we've been talking about for the last however many months.
Yeah,
I feel like
much.
years, possibly. Yeah, like of course, if you're gonna up your quantity of product by that much, you should expand your, as they call it, the Marvel apparatus. Like you should have expanded that a little bit and not, you know, you should have geared up for that. And like we've said, they also talk about Kevin Feige being spread too thin. Like we've mentioned a million times, we've been hearing that for months and months and months that he's super stressed out and needs help. And yeah, of course it's going to happen. Of course, you're going to lead to a muddled narrative that baffled viewers. Yeah, here we are. That's what we're living right now. Another big part of this article talks a lot about the upcoming film, The Marvels, and how that is looking, as we talked about recently, that is still looking to underperform, looking to make about 70 to 80 million dollars at the box office. Not too bad, except that it's a sequel to a movie that made $1 billion, and its budget was 250 million. So not looking to make its budget back, at least in the theaters. Who knows, after the fact, what it can scrape together. But it said it's tracking lower than like The Flash, I think.
Yeah, I've seen it a bunch of different directions of like just above Quantumania to like around the Flash-ish, and it's like if it hits the highs, it's almost breaking even-ish, and if it hits the lows, it's in real not good company.
Yeah. I mean, I still hope that they pull it out. I hope that it's a good movie. I don't care how much money it makes. Like, we talk about box office a lot on this show. A lot of people talk about box office on other podcasts and everything, but you got to remember, box office does not indicate quality 100% of the time. Like, box office indicates maybe popularity.
Hi, Venom. How are you?
Yeah, exactly. Venom, perfect case. Suicide Squad, the first Suicide Squad movie, made a ton of money, and that movie's
not a good movie.
Bad, yeah. So like, that's an indication of good marketing sometimes, but it's not necessarily an indication of a good film. So this movie could be stellar. It could be incredible. And it doesn't have to make $1 billion to be a great movie. But who knows? That remains to be seen.
Now, at the same time, on the flip side, Feige himself has come out and said, and Iger and everybody said, like, hey, this is getting out of hand. Like, we need to not spend $300 million on the Marvels.
Yes. Right.
Like, how? Yeah.
I don't know. Well, like, I can see it because the Marvel, seemingly from the trailers, a lot of it takes place in space.
Right.
And when you're doing a space movie, that comes with a lot of effects. Yeah. So if every shot in your movie is a visual effects,
just go to space and shoot it.
Yeah, of course. Come on.
That's not how that works.
Seems pretty obvious to me.
Yeah. Just pull up on Mars. Araco now. If you're following the House of X, Powers of X.
I'm not. Okay.
Yeah.
If and when, I'm going to disregard that when Tom Cruise eventually makes Mission Impossible in space, he will definitely really go to space to do it. And we'll see. But that's got to cost $1 billion right there, right?
Yeah.
To fly Tom Cruise to space? Come on. That's,
I don't know. Ask
ballooning your budget.
Richard Branson. Is he the one doing that? The space
flights? I think they're all doing that. Yeah. If you're a billionaire, you're trying to get to space. Stupid. Anyway.
It is the final frontier.
Yeah, I guess so. The article says that the production of the Marvels stumbled a bit in its attempt to connect the three different stories or three different characters from 3 different stories instead of just being a simple direct sequel to Captain Marvel, which it couldn't be because it was bringing in these other characters. So it has to do the work for people that maybe didn't watch WandaVision or didn't watch Ms. Marvel and don't know where these other characters are coming from. And the narrative seems so interwoven between how these 3 characters are connected. They're switching places with each other, blah, 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 blah. You do have to kind of do some legwork. And I hadn't really thought about that because I did see those 2 shows. So I'm like ready to go on this movie.
Yeah.
But I guess somewhere along the way, they probably realized, oh, maybe not everybody watched Ms. Marvel and not everybody watched WandaVision or even remembers that this character was in WandaVision because that show came out 3 years ago at this point. So apparently they underwent 4 weeks of reshoots in order to smooth out the narrative a little bit and make it a little bit better. The article also points out that they're saying like, oh, people at Marvel have raised their eyebrows because director Nia DaCosta started pre-production on another movie while the Marvel's in post-production. That happens all the time. Like they made it some like big like scandalous thing, but like, you know, James Gunn was working on Superman when he was doing promotion for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Like that's just what happens.
Right.
Like you know, I don't know.
You still need to go make a paycheck somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So whatever. Marvel's has also been moved. This article pointed out that Marvel's has also been moved several times to allow for these reshoots and allow for them to finish the visual effects. Because I think they really don't. This article paints a picture that they, and we're going to talk about VFX in a second, that they really don't want another Thor: Love and Thunder or nor another Ant-Man Quantumania where people leave the theater being like, whoa, that looked terrible. So I think part of the reason that this movie was moved a couple times was to make sure that they could get that right. So hopefully it at least, you know, plot or story aside, hopefully it executes on the visuals.
Yeah, don't give me the lugs in Moon Knight.
Yeah, for sure. At one point it was swapped with Ant-Man Quantumania because the studio deemed that Ant-Man was like farther along than the Marvels, so they swapped it out. Another instance of them choosing, choosing quantity over quality, really.
Right, choosing something to hit a release date when you made the release calendar.
Right, exactly. And that swap is what led to an accelerated schedule for Quantumania, which caused the problems with the visual effects that everyone complained about in that movie. That was like the #1 review that I saw of Ant-Man Quantumania before I saw it. Before I watched the movie myself, I just kept reading about like it looks terrible. Some of the effects are horrible. And I agreed. When I saw that movie, I was like, yep, it's not holding up. It's not holding up like it should. So speaking of VFX, Steve, you and I have reported and talked about the problems that Marvel's been having with their VFX houses for a long time. Long time this has been happening, to the point where they have decided to unionize. Not just the Marvel VFX houses, but also the Disney VFX houses, and it's kind of led to this like industry-wide unionizing amongst visual effects houses. And somebody, I think there was some kind of congressional hearing on.
Congress is unionizing too?
Yeah, no.
Everybody.
No, there was like a, I don't know if it was just like a general workers congressional hearing or something, or if it was specific to VFX, but this article mentions that somebody got up and specifically said something like 2023 was the straw that broke our backs, was the straw that broke the camel's back, and that the working conditions at Marvel were the reason that we decided to unionize.
Oh, wow.
Specifically pointing to Marvel, not just like Disney in general. It's crazy. So like, yeah, we've talked about the shoddy effects in Quantumania, Thor: Love and Thunder, She-Hulk, Moon Knight. Swapping Quantumania with the Marvels is what caused those bad effects. But apparently Disney and Bob Iger were so furious at these critiques and the sharp decline of these the quality of these effects, that is why they ended up firing Victoria Alonso, which we talked about months ago when that happened. And we kind of thought that at the time, like they blamed that she was working on some other like independent movie passion project of hers, but like
Argentina something. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I remember
Argentina 1890 something. It was like a year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But she was like overseeing post-production and visual effects and animation. That was her title, it's her job. And so like they threw her under the bus and said like, okay, well, we understand that it's bad, and so we're firing this person.
You gotta have a fall guy. She was the fall guy.
She ended up being the fall guy. Even though that I feel like if they wanted to fire her to make people think that the effects would be better moving forward, then they should have said that. But they didn't say that. They blamed it on this independent movie thing that didn't really make sense, and we all saw through it. So I don't know
Now,
what their thought process was there.
with the VFX thing, like when the Marvel machine started taking off, they were relatively the only game in town. Like every studio wasn't like throwing like multiple millions of dollars of summer blockbusters style movies at every turn. Like the entire movie landscape in 2008 to 2012 wasn't everything is VFX all the time. Like it
Yeah,
is. And it seems
I
like
agree
that's
with you that
ramped up with other studios.
the MCU has certainly changed the cinematic landscape for sure, because now everyone is trying to either have a connected universe like they are, and when you're making superhero movies, you need visual effects, and you need more visual effects than you need in a Batman movie when you just put a guy in a suit on a street or in a
Mhm.
car. If like we just said, if Captain Marvel's flying through space, she's got to look like she's really in space. She's shooting laser beams out of her hands. You got to look like she's really shooting those laser beams out of her hands. Like all this is.
Meanwhile, whenever they decide to make Blade, if they ever do,
Oh,
it's
we'll
a
get there,
dude
buddy.
with some teeth and a sword.
Yeah, yeah. I'll pause that thought for just a second while we finish up this part. But I think you're kind of right, because, I mean, not to say that there were never other superhero movies or other big visual effects movies. Something like Avatar, of course, was like a huge
Right.
visual effects movie. But Marvel, I think what you're getting at is like, as far as the quantity
Yeah, the
of
sheer
stuff
glut.
being pumped out, the
Yeah.
sheer quantity of stuff is what really started putting the stress on the visual effects industry.
And everybody
Um,
needs it.
Yeah. So not only do you have every other action franchise or animation thing or whatever that needs visual effects, you also have this one studio that's declaring they're going to put out 4 movies a year and 4 TV shows a year, and you have to do all the work for that on top of, the occasional Star Wars movie or the occasional Avatar or
Right.
whatever else, So
Well, and that I mean,
yes.
when you look at the MCU in itself, yes, the original Iron Man or Hulk or whatever, you had VFX,
Sure.
but it wasn't every shot. There were still plenty
No.
of shots with Tony walking around and talking in a building, or like Cap,
Bruce Banner talking to Betty,
right? Like the original Cap, if it wasn't for Steve Rogers being a scrawny little kid and Red Skull's face, there really wasn't a whole hell of a lot there.
Yeah, but even
the
like a
original
lot
Thor.
of Captain America has practical sets.
Right.
Like they're not all green screen stuff.
Right.
It's that they utilize it smart instead of just having, let's just have everything in front of a green screen. We don't really have to go to a street. We don't have to go to a forest.
Right.
I'm like, no, you should go to a forest. You should go to a street.
The original Thor.
Yeah.
Like the destroyer is there, but the destroyer is there on a street.
On a street.
Like you're filming
Yes.
it and you're inserting this guy.
Yep. Perfect.
So
Yep.
like
So the whole thing doesn't
basically
look like a
everything up to
cartoon.
everything up to Avengers, it was like, okay, this is a level of things.
Yeah.
And then phase 2 or 3 or whatever the hell they called it at the time, post Avengers, was like, oh, let's crank this up to 8, 9, and then after Endgame, it just got cranked to like 13.
Well, it's also like, but and at that point, we're also at where we're talking about the post 2020 onslaught of we're going to do this and 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 we're going to do it. Like, it kind of leads into what the next point from the article is about to say, is that like they have so much going that this article points out, and I think correctly, and I think you and I know this, and I think a lot of people know this, but like they're firing Victoria Alonso to try to blame her for the bad effects, when really we're talking about a studio that we know has gone on record saying they start filming their movies before the scripts are before the scripts are finished being written. They rush their production schedules. They change their mind last minute and demand that the VFX change everything. They third act rewrites because the script isn't done.
Yep.
Because the scripts aren't done, They don't have enough time for executives or whoever to like sit with the story or realize like, oh wait, maybe this would be better over here, or maybe we should change this. So those things happen late in production when they should have already been taken care of before anybody even started on the visual effects of the movies. So like these rush production schedules, these last minute changes, these release date swaps, the unfinished scripts, those are the reasons that those are what lead to bad visual effects.
Yeah.
Like it's not just the visual effects that are bad. It is because you didn't give them enough time or you made them change whatever, like because you didn't have the first part settled.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw, like, I don't remember who said, but the best like story writing advice, or some of the best story writing advice I've ever heard, is like, if you think you have a problem with your third act, you don't. You have a problem with your first two acts. Solve those problems and your third act is just writes itself.
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense.
And it's the kind of thing that it's kind of like you can apply that to the idea of just making a movie or making a show. Like if you when you finally get to like post-production, if something is wrong, then it's because you didn't do something in pre-production or you didn't do something during production. Like they're all connected. So you have to be solid before you start shooting, or you're going to end with a bumbling mess at the end. And it's really probably just for the grace of God that they were able to be successful for so long with that method of just like, oh, we'll figure it out later. But like, that's just not sustainable. And they're finding that out now. They finished their fuck around era and they're falling into their finding out era, I think. Or maybe they're trying to climb out of it.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. And you did say, I believe you used the term bumbling mess. And I think that may be able to describe one Eric Brooks and the character Blade at this point.
Yes, you mentioned Blade earlier. This article talks about Blade a little bit as an example of something that they've been of a bumbling mess that they've been having tons of problem with. The article points out that this is a movie that's been through 5 writers, 2 directors, and at one point had to shut down production just weeks away from filming because of script and story issues. Oscar-winning actor Mahershala Ali, who approached Marvel himself and said, I want to be Blade after he won his Oscar. The first thing that he did after winning an Academy Award for his performance in Green Book, he went to Marvel and said, I want to play Blade. And they said, okay. And they announced it 4 years ago or whatever. And here we are, not even in production, not on Blade. Apparently, Mahershala Ali was ready to walk away from the movie and quit at one point because there was a lot of different scripts that weren't working. This article alleges that at one point there was a script that was being led by like a team of 3 like women, and that Blade was like the 4th lead and he wasn't even the star of his own movie. But then I read a report from someone that was a writer, one of the writers on Blade. He said that he'd never seen a script that was like that at all.
Yeah, that wasn't Blade focused because, well, it's Blade. It's in the name.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I don't know. He goes, I can't say that I saw everything, but I never even heard of any ideas that resemble that. So who knows how accurate that is. It seems silly to have a movie called Blade and have him not be the lead. Like, I don't know how much I believe that.
I mean, you saw Ahsoka, right?
Well, yeah, that's true, but that's Star Wars, and we knew it was going to be an ensemble thing, and this is a movie called Blade, a relaunching of a franchise, really. And this article mentioned that Marvel is now looking to spend no more than $100 million on Blade. So going kind of on the cheaper side for them, which
street level, you could pull it off.
Yo, that makes me very excited.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to try to make $100 million Blade movie? Yes. You should make all your movies for $100 million. Oh, yeah. Like, don't stretch your budget, or, stretch your budget and in a way that forces you to stretch your creativity.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, actually, that's a good point. Has the MCU gotten into a George Lucas with the prequel situation where there's no one to tell them no anymore?
Right. Yeah.
And they're just doing things, and they're, off into Never Land, and nobody's like, hey, this is a bad idea. Let's put some bounds on this, and you guys figure some things out. Instead, they're blowing 300 million on, not to besmirch the Marvels, but like 300 million on any movie. Like,
Well, like,
it's only the
use-
Marvels because that's the most recent one. But like Quantumania
use one that's
was
come
right
out
near
already,
there,
like-
too.
Exactly. I was gonna say use one that's already come out, Quantumania.
Yeah.
They blew a ton of money on that, and people didn't like it. They
Yeah.
were like, this is meh. Who cares about this?
The
But-
Eternals, like,
and
same deal.
sure. At least the Eternals was trying something new.
Yeah.
The Eternals look different, and I still want to revisit that movie. But
I feel like I would like that more rewatching it, but
I agree. Especially in the state that we're in now with
Yeah.
Marvel stuff. I think the Eternals would be like, oh, this
Breath of
is
fresh
actually
air type,
really
yeah.
good. Yeah. But this article also mentions, and I don't think I wrote it down, but it says that apparently Marvel usually only tests their movies with audiences full of other Disney employees or family and friends of those Disney employees. And the Marvels was the first, like, they felt that it wasn't working. They felt it wasn't working. So they took what was for them an unprecedented step of having a public, like, showing
Yeah.
of them, like a pre-screening of the film. And that's where they got the middling reviews, which caused them to go back to do the reshoots, I guess. So, but like you're saying, there's nobody to tell them no, because they're only showing it to like the people that already are drinking the Kool-Aid. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, oh, we'll show this to other Disney and Marvel employees that already know everything that we're doing, and maybe they've worked on the movie even, or like, the parents or friends of people that worked on the movie are coming to see a movie. Like, yes, you're just showing it to people that are already invested in this thing. You need to show it to strangers. You need to
Yeah.
show it to people who've never seen a Marvel movie. So I think you're onto something there when you say it's like George Lucas and the prequels, like no one can tell them
Yeah.
no. But again, I think they're in the find out era of the MCU right now, and they're realizing, oh, people can tell us no, and they tell us no by not going to see our movies or reviewing them poorly on
Right.
shows and podcasts or whatever.
Also, let the record show that my brain is not completely foobar. Mahershala Ali also won for Moonlight, which is the one that I had remembered, not the Green Room.
That's right. Not for Green Room. I don't think anyone won an Academy Award for
I
Green
don't
Room.
think
That's
so
a
either.
dope movie. Have you ever seen that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it.
It's a horror movie.
Yep.
Where, a band plays at like a Nazi bar,
Yeah.
and then they get like trapped in the green room because then all the Nazis are trying to kill them and they need to escape. It is great.
Nice.
Very good. Check it out.
Also,
never
not
seen Green
confused
Book.
with the Green Knight, which I still need to see.
Whoa. You've never seen that?
No,
Dude, you gotta
know.
watch that movie.
I know.
It is-
You're talking the Dev Patel one, right?
Yes. Yes. That is a mind-bending,
Mhm.
weird-ass masterpiece of a movie. It is so good.
And I love
So
that
good.
story too. So
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You will love it. It's
Nice.
great. Visually spectacular.
awesome.
Spectacular. All right. So, still talking about this article, but moving into what this article referred to as, I guess not like word for word, but basically pointed that the biggest point of panic for Marvel right now is something we talked about last week, the whole Jonathan Majors issue. They cast this guy as the next big Thanos level big bad of their universe, and now he's being accused of assault and multiple trials. Apparently, there's the one in New York City, but apparently there's one in London that's going on also. A
Oh.
different accuser that's at the same.
You get a
Yeah,
trial,
so-
and you get a trial, and you get a trial, and yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a whole thing. So, we talked about this last week. Clearly, I am of the opinion that they got to let this guy go. Like, there's already too much baggage. Like, I don't know what you're waiting for. Maybe you're waiting for Loki to be over, but did Loki just end this week?
No.
Or is there one more?
Two more.
Okay.
Two more.
Two more. Oh, okay. I started watching it, by the
No,
way. It's
maybe
pretty
one
good.
more.
Okay.
Yeah, one more. 6 episodes.
So, I'm thinking maybe they're waiting for Loki to be over, and then they're going to say he's gone or
Could be.
whatever. Or whatever.
Well, and then at that point, like, you've established Kang as a thing.
Yeah.
Do you pivot off of Kang for Secret Wars, etc.? Like Kang Dynasty, yes, that has it in the name. You
Change
can
it.
retitle a movie.
You can change it. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like,
Well, that's what
Secret
this
Wars,
article.
go Doom. Like if you're doing
Well-
fantasy or Fantastic Four, like pivot into Victor Von Doom, who is the one of the biggest big bads around,
Well,
and tied
Steve,
into Secret Wars.
that's exactly what this article says. It's apparently
Oh.
backup
Should've
plans
read the
have
article.
been discussed about what to do. Like this article starts off with like they all like the Marvel story group or whatever met for their like annual retreat. And this was the first year where everyone was stressed out and mad
Yeah.
and not just like, hey, we're making millions of dollars and everything that we do is great. Like that's like
We're making money. Where's the open bar? No,
exactly.
No,
This is the starting point of this article is people meeting under much different conditions than they've ever met before. And so they're taught apparently in that meeting they have discussed backup plans, including recasting and also pivoting to another villain such as Doctor Doom, which is exactly what this article says, which is exactly what you just said they should do. So maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's the way to go.
I mean, it makes sense if you're bringing in Fantastic Four and you need
Yeah.
to do something different, and like go full weird, go full battle world, like like take a step, take a stance.
Yes. Yeah. Throw something out there that's crazy.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. Apparently, they've even already considered moving away from Kang even before the legal trouble, the assault charges. They already considered moving away from Kang after Quantumania wasn't like a huge hit. So it's something they're thinking about. They're making plans apparently.
But the thing, that's the weird thing though, is like he was one of the best parts of Quantumania.
You're right. Yes.
Like Quantumania wasn't a flop because of Jonathan Majors and the Kang thing. It was
Correct.
a flop in spite of it, because for all of the Jonathan Majors shit going on, the guy can still act.
He's a great actor. He's very good at acting. Yes.
However,
and-
he may, innocent until proven guilty, etc. He may be
Sure.
a giant piece of shit. However,
Yeah.
he portrayed a great character in that movie.
Yes. But that's a really good point, Steve, which I hadn't really thought of, is that getting rid of him because Quantumania wasn't a smash hit like they thought it was going to be, that's reactionary filmmaking, which I hate. If you have a good actor and you have a good character, just because he's in a bad movie doesn't mean that actor and character can't soar in a better movie, in a better script, So you're right. I wouldn't have I want them to
just
pivot
saw
away.
Hayden Christensen
Yes.
cook in Ahsoka.
Yeah, dude. Yes. Or like they even, that's not a bad example. I was going to say they retroactively made us care about Thor the Dark World because they put it in Endgame, but like that doesn't make Thor the Dark World a better movie
No,
necessarily.
still
So
a shit
that doesn't
movie,
make sense. Yeah. But yeah, like I think they should get rid of him because of the legal trouble that he is in, and that he's an accused of assault.
Mhm.
I don't think that's a wise thing for them to do, to keep this guy around.
No.
But doing it just because the movie he was in wasn't successful is a bad idea.
And all
one
of this shit
anonymous
is complete speculation, because we'll never know the real reasons why they're doing anything or what they're going to do. But
they'll never come out and tell us, I'm
Yeah.
sure. I mean, if it's because of the assault, they would be smart if they were like, hey, we're on the right side of history and we don't want to do business with an assault victim, or not victim, assault perpetrator. Yeah. According to this article, there's one anonymous insider that said the following quote: Marvel is truly fucked with this whole Kang angle, and they haven't had an opportunity to rewrite until very recently because of the WGA strike, but I don't see a path to how they move forward with him. I agree with that guy or person, guy or girl, person who said that. I agree. I don't see how they can do it really.
Yeah.
And get away with it. In closing, as far as this article goes,
yeah, we're still talking about the same article, folks.
we're still talking about the same article. I was gonna say this is a huge article. Go read it. It's on Variety. Marvel in Crisis. It's very interesting, and they'll go more in depth and things that we're talking about here.
I was going to say, now I may have to go back and read it.
Yeah, you should.
I know you linked
there-
it to me and said you should read this. It's long, but you should read this. Full disclosure, I didn't.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You're like, Michael summarized it in the rundown. I don't agree.
We'll figure it out.
This is the other big thing that was picked up from a lot of outlets in this article was the fact that Marvel apparently has considered bringing back the original Avengers team, but haven't committed to that idea yet. That would include reviving Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, and bring back Chris Evans's Captain America. He's not dead; he's just an old man. I mean, I think a lot of people thought, me included, that this would be something we would probably see in Secret Wars.
Right. And I'm cool with it as a cameo or like
Sure.
for a reason, for a payoff.
Yeah. I don't know that I even am with a cameo, to be honest with you.
Well, like, flashback to something they did, or you
Oh.
know what I mean? Like
Flashback? Yeah. I'll take a flashback.
right.
Sure.
If there is a good plot reason to do it, do it.
Yeah.
If there is not a compelling plot reason and you're doing it just to get butts and seats, go
Yeah.
shit in a hat.
I agree. I am very much against them doing this. Because I just think it just reeks of desperation to me. And this article basically says that this is what they're thinking of doing, and also more or less, how I took at the end of this article to say is that they're just hoping that Fantastic Four and X-Men are new and different enough to like revitalize the MCU and the franchise. But I think bringing back the original Avengers team is not the way to go. It's not the way to go. Like, they had their moment and it's over.
You know what that screams of? That screams of executives not knowing what the hell they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
I guarantee that idea didn't come from Feige. It was probably from some other executive at Disney or Marvel that was like, oh, it'd be a great idea. We should do this. It's like, no, that's not what works. That's not why this is a thing. That's not like,
Exactly.
don't.
Exactly. Like, let's make a music comparison. It's like why a band like the Beatles is still always heralded as like one of the greatest bands of all time, or like Nirvana, right? Like, because they burned bright and they disappeared. They were gone. They weren't around long enough to ruin their reputation.
Yeah.
Or to overstay their welcome. They were gone quickly, and it was over, and that's it. I mean, the Beatles did just release a new song this week, which I love. But
it's the
but
it's
still,
the classic,
it's like,
it's the classic die the hero or live long enough to become the villain.
Exactly, Steve. Exactly. Like, and I'm sure if John Lennon had survived, then we would have gotten a Beatles thing, the 80s or 90s or whatever, and it would have been like, all right, I don't know, what are they doing here? Or like the Rolling Stones, like they just put out a good album too, but like the Rolling Stones have been plagued with like old jokes and when are they going to retire for their for everything they've done since the 1970s. So like, it's just like, you did it, it was great, you gave everybody a good exit, so don't bring it back. If you bring it back, you'll be trying to recapture the magic of what it was, and you will not be successful. 90% of the time you will not be successful. So I think that's a bad move.
No, that's and Travis in the chat brings up something good about the
hey Travis, thanks for watching.
The recasting of Downey or bringing them back in. Like, instead of Iron Man, look at all the characters that Iron Man influenced.
Yeah.
Be it the kid from 3, Harvey or Harley, Rhodey, Pepper, Happy, Peter, all that. Like, there's a pantheon of characters that Iron Man has influenced. Use that instead of bringing him back.
That's a really great point. And Don Cheadle as Rhodey has showed up in a lot of the Disney Plus shows, like cameoed. He was in Secret Invasion. He was in Falcon Winter Soldier. And I feel like there was one other one maybe that he popped up in, or maybe I'm just conflating things. But
I'm refusing.
Maybe it was a movie. I don't remember.
To acknowledge Secret Invasion happened. So
quality, very, very smart decision. But they should really, and that's great that they're keeping him like an active part of the MCU. They should really start writing him more like he's stepping up as a lead Avenger. I feel like stop writing him as a side character or a sidekick. Start writing him. I mean, still call him War Machine or whatever, but start writing him like the new Iron Man. Of course, he's a different personality. He's a different guy. Like, don't just change him to be quippy like Robert Downey Jr., but like, he should fill that man in a flying metal suit void that's on the Avengers, or Riri, like get her going.
I
like,
think that's part of the problem we see. Like we currently have seen Rhodey shelved is they were trying to put the eggs in the Riri basket, which would have worked out great if everything didn't get delayed. And now we're seeing Rhodey everywhere and nothing from Riri outside of the Black Panther 2 cameo-ish thing. Like yes, she was a big part of the action scenes and
she was also
the plot, kind of.
But she was also the least integral character to that.
100%. It
100%.
felt like the America Chavez, like just slap it in there and see, like, oh, we've got to put this character in. Let's throw him in and see what happens.
Yeah, it's that was definitely like kind of ham-fisted. We need to build our universe where Wakanda Forever would have been a much stronger narrative if they didn't have to deal with that plot line. I think, personally, I believe. But even so, just put that show out already. Finish Ironheart. We started talking about, they announced Ironheart like 2 or 3 years ago or whatever. We still haven't seen it. They announced Armor Wars like 2 or 3 years ago. We still haven't seen that either. I know that was supposed to be a show and they changed it to a movie, but like,
I believe
nothing.
They announced both of those at I can't remember when our friend's wedding in Pittsburgh was.
Yeah.
But I believe it was whatever year that was.
Yes,
when we were sitting there. Like,
that's why I think it was at least 3 3 years ago. At least. So wild and crazy and wild. 3 to 4 years ago, because it was pre-pandemic that we were at that wedding.
Yeah,
we weren't wearing masks or anything. We were nervous about COVID. Insane.
However,
insane.
Yeah, my son was born, so it's between 4 and 6 years ago.
Okay. They really need to. This is the last thing I'll say, and then we can move on to the other Marvel thing that we won't talk about for as long. I think they really need to pull themselves back when it comes to announcing what they're going to make, because more and more we're seeing things get pushed or just delayed to a point of like we're questioning whether or not they're even going to make Blade. Like, do we care about Thunderbolts? Do we remember that they're making Armor Wars? Like, I forget about Armor Wars all the time. I constantly forget about Captain America 4, and that's like a big character.
Right. And one I'm actually excited to see.
Yes, for sure. But like,
I do keep forgetting it's
pull back
happen.
On this stuff.
And I keep forgetting they changed the title on it too.
Yeah. Like, how much less of a problem would they be in right now if they hadn't already announced a movie called Kang Dynasty, which has the name of a character who is now played by a guy who is about to be on trial for assaulting a woman in New York City. Like, that's bad. Like, if you had announced that movie, then we wouldn't have seen because you announced that movie, we're like, oh, this was clearly going to be a big character and Marvel's in a lot of trouble. If they hadn't announced that movie, we'd be like, oh, they should recast that guy. But it wouldn't be as big of a deal.
Right. And any of us that knew him from the comics are like, okay, he's popping up here. He'll just pop up through a bunch of random things and it'll be fine.
Right.
Got another thing from the chat.
Love it.
Oops. Sorry. I had to scroll back through the chat. So Devil's Advocate, one argument that's never brought up. What's an example of when bringing back a dead character actually worked?
Whoa, great question.
Now Travis brings up a Star Trek reference for Search for Spock. Unfortunately, I have never seen that movie or get that reference, but it does apparently it undoes the Wrath of Khan ending, which I do remember. Yeah. So now, like,
I haven't seen that movie either, but I have seen Wrath of Khan, and I know that then they appear in later movies. So clearly they did something. What is it where they bring a character back from the dead and it doesn't feel contrived or rehashed or stupid? Nope, that one feels dumb.
My brain is not immediately coming up with anything.
I mean, the only...
Oh, I got it. Rise of Skywalker. Somehow, somehow Iron Man returned.
Somehow Kang returned.
Oh, Jesus.
That's in our future.
Uh,
Somehow Kang looks different now. Where it doesn't feel weird at all and works for the franchise, Friday the 13th, they bring Jason back every time.
Fair.
And you don't,
Okay.
yeah, you're like, it's to the point where you're like, how are they going to do it this time? But that's a false equivalency.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Like,
they're
it's-
not going for the same thing that the MCU is going for. Like,
Yeah. But
you
but
go into
the
Friday
fact
the
that we
13th
can't
knowing
come
that
up
it's
with
going to be
something-
stupid. Yeah.
Right. The fact that we can't come up with something at this point.
Yeah.
You know, he also brings up, like, comes with the question, would I bring them back if I could? And like, it brings up the selfish versus selfless, and
Yeah.
you can make it work if you can make it work, like apparently they did in Star Trek Search for Spock.
Sure.
However, we can't come up with anything else. So
I mean, I think again, I haven't seen Search for Spock, so I don't know how they do this, but I think in order to do it and do it right, you have to like put in the time
Mhm.
to have. I mean, it happens in comic books all the time. People die and come back.
Yeah.
All the time. And they mentioned this in the article, like, it shouldn't be a big deal to bring back Iron Man because that happens in the comics all the time, but it's a different medium.
Right.
It feels different. Like you are attached to Robert Downey Jr. differently than you're attached to a drawn version of of Tony Stark. Like it just is. That's just
Yeah.
It's true. You're like attached to an actor, so it's just different. It just hits differently.
Right. And in
So-
comics, when you read Death of Wolverine, you know there's going to be Wolverine lives.
You know.
like
Yes.
it's a
Like
given.
the only thing I could think of, which I still think is poorly planned and executed, is Superman dying in Batman versus Superman and coming back in Justice League. But like, I can't say that was done. It certainly wasn't done well.
Right.
But like, I just knew that he was gonna come back. It also I wasn't emotionally affected by his death because I knew they were just gonna bring him back, and they're gonna bring him back in a stupid way. So it was poorly executed, but it was like, okay, good, Superman is finally back. Let's make oh, Superman's in this Justice League movie? Good. Like,
Yeah.
why did it take you half the movie to put a Superman in a Justice League movie? That's a whole other thing.
Right.
But you have to take I think you have to take
He brings up Maul and Boba Fett in the Star Wars universe. Maul 100%. Like
that's a good point too.
they took
That's a good point, too.
and took a character that should have had more screen time, and for like, I mean, yes, they put in the time and turned him into what Maul became.
Yeah.
And then whole character arc all over the place.
Maul specifically, yes, works better for me than Boba Fett. Like Boba Fett, like, because he doesn't definitively die, I guess. He's just like in the stomach being digested and ends up crawling out. So like, but like someone that you really thought, I guess we thought Boba
Yeah,
Fett
we
died.
thought
So
Boba Fett
that
was
is
dead as
that is
shit.
a good example. You're right.
Unless you read Legend stuff back in the 90s, in which case
But Boba Fett wasn't cut in half the way
literally,
Maul was.
yes.
And Maul, like, there's like a whole search for him. Like Savage Opress is like going to like look for him, finds him, and he's insane and he has weird spider legs. Like they find
So
him,
good.
he's a very different character than we last saw him. You know what I mean? So they're putting in the time, and they even lay the groundwork for Maul coming back way earlier in like the back half of season 3 somewhere, where they tease it, and then you don't see anything until like
Yeah.
I think in season 4. I don't think you
yeah.
see Maul until either the very end of season 3 or like season 4. So like they put in the time. It's not like a snap of the fingers back, which something tells me if Marvel was going to do this, it would be Doctor Strange opening a thing to a different reality and
Walks
it's
right
Robert
through.
Downey
Yeah.
Jr. and yeah, it's like, okay, Scarlett Johansson, like, okay, great. I'm not emotionally attached to this. It's got to happen from an emotional place, a personal and emotional place. And I don't know that they have the patience to do that because they haven't shown the patience to take their time with a lot of stuff recently. So who knows?
Well, something they've not been taking their time with just dropped a trailer as well.
Yeah, moving on. Finally, this is going to be a long episode. We
Oh,
gotta
we're still
cruise
in-
through these.
We're still in Marvel for the
We're
record.
still on Marvel. We don't have a ton of else other stuff, but like we got to cruise these other things because it's going to be a long one. We got a trailer for Echo, Marvel's Echo Disney Plus show, spin-off of Hawkeye. and technically a spinoff of the Daredevil Netflix series, I guess, at the same time. We got a trailer for it. This is a series that they announced was going to be dropped all at once in January, binge style, Netflix style, instead of being released weekly. All signs pointed to the series being bad because of that decision. They're dropping it in January. They're dropping it all at once. It's not good. We heard that there were reshoots and recalibrations, and the episodes were cut and heavily edited. So I'm not expecting a bunch out of this show. However, it was a dope trailer.
Oh, trailer was great.
Trailer was great. And we've said this on this show before. We've been burned by good trailers before. Clearly. The aforementioned David Ayer Suicide Squad movie had a great trailer. Great trailer. But, so, this is not only the next Disney Plus series that we're going to see, it's also the first Disney Plus series that's going to be rated for mature audiences, rated MA for mature audiences. And this trailer lives up to that rating for sure. There's a lot of blood in this trailer. It's a very violent trailer. It's a very gory trailer. You see a guy get shot in the head, just straight up, gun right up to his neck, bam. Gross.
And you saw Wilson Fisk being Wilson Fisk.
Saw Wilson Fisk beating the hell out of somebody in an alleyway. So yeah, it's very, very Kingpin focused trailer. He's narrating the whole trailer, and it's kind of showing his relationship with the title character of Echo, and shows her doing some badass fighting as well. So I liked this character a lot in Hawkeye. I'm not familiar with her in the comics. I know that she has ties to Daredevil, and I believe that Charlie Cox is supposed to be in this show. He's not in the trailer, but I believe he's supposed to be in the show from what I remember reading. It's made me excited to see the show. Again, my expectations are still low, but they're higher than they were.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, they're doing cool stuff. Looks like they're doing some cool stuff. Who knows? Maybe it's great. One thing I will say, and Steve, I don't know if you're familiar with Echo in the comics, but I read I read a quote from the director, Sidney Freeland, director's name. They said over the weekend, they're giving an interview saying her power in the comic books is that she can copy anything, like any movement, any whatever.
She's basically supposed to be like Taskmaster.
Like, hence the name, Echo.
Right.
They went on to say, it's kind of lame. I will say that is not her power, meaning in the series. I will just kind of leave it at that. So, one, I don't think that's a lame power. I think that's an awesome power.
Oh, that's great.
It's great. Great. So I guess I don't remember having a power in the Hawkeye series. I thought she was similar to Daredevil, just like heightened, or just like a good athletic fighter, I guess. Right. Maybe slightly heightened other senses. She's not blind, she's deaf. So I don't know. I guess it remains to be seen if she has a power or what that power is, but it's not going to be the power that's in the comics, which pretty cool.
Yeah.
So see. Here's what I hope. I hope if they're not giving her this power, I hope she doesn't have a power and she's a street level fighter. Because I don't need her to have a power.
Right.
I don't want her to have telekinesis or anything. That would be lame. Just give me a street fight.
She needs like a random like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat 2 thing that comes out of her arm or something.
Sure. Yeah, give her a cool weapon.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's all I need. So yeah, this show comes out in January.
Yeah, I think both of us were more pleasantly surprised with it than we expected.
Certainly with the trailer. Well, it remains to be seen how we feel about the show, and I'm sure we'll talk all about it when we can binge the heck out of it in January. Another trailer we got this week for a series we may have never talked about or very seldom talk about.
Maybe here and there.
We're running low on franchises that we never talk about. But this one might be one we never talk about, or maybe we just slightly touched on in the past. A new trailer for the first trailer for a movie called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This is directed by Wes Bell, the guy that did the Maze Runner series. Comes out this Memorial Day. It is the fourth film in the rebooted Planet of the Apes series. It started with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And it is the 10th in the overall franchise, Planet of the Apes franchise, including the originals. So, Steve, how many Planet of the Apes movies have you seen in your life?
Including the originals,
Yes.
probably 5-ish.
Way more than me, buddy.
Yeah.
Way more than me. Yep.
So
I've seen.
the originals were always on TNT growing up.
Yeah,
And when you only had 24 channels, you watched whatever the hell was on.
absolutely agree.
And then I've seen at least the new. I think I've seen the first 2 of the new. I know I saw
Mhm.
the first of the new, the
Right.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, or so.
I have seen the original Planet of the Apes all the way through.
Okay.
That's it. That's it, my friend.
Nice.
I have seen parts of other ones. I have not seen any of the new reboot series. Although every time one comes out, I see the trailer and I say, I should watch those. Those look good.
Yeah.
And it's cool because I feel like Planet of the Apes isn't like a franchise that's on the level of a Marvel or a DC or a Star Wars. I don't think it's even really close, but they've, as far as like general popularity.
Yeah.
But they have kind of sneakily been just like plugging along with this franchise. And from what I've heard, those first 3 reboot movies are really good.
Yeah.
I don't know who directed the first one, but Matt Reeves did the second and third one, I think, and those got good reviews. And now this one looks good. The trailer for this one looks good too. Like, I don't know anything about this series. I'm watching this trailer. I don't know if I'm supposed to know who these apes are. I don't know if I'm supposed to know where this is happening or, what's going on. Like, it looks like Planet of the Apes from the first one that I saw. But even with all that, I'm just, every time I see one of these movies, I'm like, I should really revisit that series and jump into it. So
do it up.
kudos to Planet of the Apes for just being there all along. You know what I mean? And I know there's definitely diehard Planet of the Apes fans out there. And I'm sure they're ecstatic anytime that they get a new one, because I feel like it's a franchise that is popular, but not so popular that you're guaranteed another movie, in the next 2 years. But they keep getting them. So it's good enough. They're making enough money to keep making them. And that's all you really want, as long as they're good. Like, we just talked about a ton of like problems with Marvel. 100% chance we're getting more Marvel movies for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, they may be having this trouble right now. Like, they're not so down and out that we're not ever going to get another Marvel movie. Same with DC, same with Star Wars. Like, those are just going to keep happening. Planet of the Apes is a franchise that I feel like, if it's not good, you don't know. If like this movie's really bad, no one goes to see it, it's going to be a while before you get another Planet of the Apes movie. So, I don't know. Good job, Apes. You're crushing it. Keep it up. Maybe I'll watch you someday.
You should.
Cool piece of comics news. DC has announced they are going to release a line of what they're calling compact comics. These are reprints of some of their most well-known graphic novels, or trade collections in smaller format, 5.5 by 8.5 inches. So like smaller, more like kind of like a manga style. I think those are like those are usually a lot smaller. Which I think is smart because manga is super popular right now. So they're looking to attract that audience or kind of bleed into that audience. That's a smart move. You want to kind of, go where the audience is if they're not coming to you. And if people want a smaller, compact thing that's a full story, like a lot of manga actually is, then here they are for you. I think that's smart. The titles that they're re-releasing in these compact comics include Watchmen, All-Star Superman, Batman: The Court of Owls, Green Lantern: Far Sector, Wonder Woman: Earth 1, American Vampire, Batman: Hush, Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens, and Catwoman: Trail of the Catwoman, and Joker, Brian Azzarello. I think this is cool. I think it's a cool idea. I'm not sure when the first one's coming out, but I think it's smart of them to be able to pivot strategy when they see industry, the industry changing, or industry. What am I trying to say?
Yeah. A shift in the industry.
Shift. There you go. A shift in the industry.
But how do you bag and board a 5.5 by 8.5?
Well, you don't bag and board. No, they're like graphic novel
I
collections. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, if that's where the audiences are moving towards, like, I feel like in general collecteds are where people tend to be moving towards anyways. So
Yeah.
like I still like my
I'm-
floppies, but I would much rather have it all at once. And
I am trying to move back towards collected editions
Yeah.
by myself, for sure. Although I do enjoy the floppies still. Speaking of floppies, I have a comic to review. Do you have a comic to review?
I do have a comic to review.
Would you like to go first this week? I feel like I went first last week. I don't remember, but
Sure.
okay.
So
What you got?
this week, Jesse down at Funky Town gave me one of his personal favorite series,
Oh, cool.
Ice Cream Man.
Ice Cream Man.
So they're kind of vignettes, like not connected outside of like some through lines here and there. So
Yeah.
me picking it up with number 37 was not anything too crazy.
Not a problem.
It's
See, that's good to know because I didn't know that. I hear a lot about Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of raves about how good it is. But I haven't ever picked one up because I thought it was a continuing story. You're telling me it's like an anthology kind of
yeah.
series.
Yep. So it's
Oh,
like
cool.
a horror anthology.
I did not know that.
I don't know how to describe this one.
Oh, okay.
Overall pretty solid. Like it was once I wrapped my head around what was going on, there's two diametrically different stories happening. One is a pair of humans talking through what we find out is the creator of the second half, like the alternate story, the comic creator. It's his brother and sister discussing him dying via suicide.
Oh.
And then on the flip side, you have a bunch of can't really see them, but cutesy little
Yeah, I can see him driving a tank,
yes,
like dogs or something.
dog furry something or others in the middle of what is known as Vietnam Nam. And it is one of the
That's
most
hilarious.
ridiculous out there stories you will read, but also makes you think like crazy. And it was good. It was
Wow.
definitely good. It's hard to put it into words.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, there's it was heavy, which
Oh,
I didn't
cool.
expect going into it from everything I've
Yeah.
heard about Ice Cream Man. It's like, okay.
Right.
But yeah, it's
Well, it's called Ice Cream Man. You don't necessarily expect
right.
heavy, disturbing horror
Yeah.
from a book called The
Yeah,
Ice Cream
there's-
Man, which I think is probably part of the fun of it, or
Right.
part of the appeal.
But yeah, glad I
Cool.
was glad I got to take a look at it. And
Nice. Well, I am glad that I got to read my comic for the week as well, which is Transformers #2, written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson, colorist Mike Spicer, letterer Russ Wooten. Now, you might remember a few weeks ago, Jesse at Funky Town Comics gave me Transformers #1. And I am not a huge Transformers fan. I haven't been since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. So I read that one and I liked it quite a bit. I was surprised at how much I liked it. Again, surprised at how much I like this book.
okay,
This is a really solid book. It's really well written. It's written in a way that I think I said this one the last time I was reviewing #1, where a couple times I bought a Transformers book because my son wanted to read one. And the plot and the dialogue was just so dense and so complex. Neither of us could figure out what they were talking about. There's so much lore. There's so much explanation as what's going on. Like, and it's so talky.
Yep.
And like, I don't know this. I don't know what's happening. And he's like, Dad, this is boring. I'm like, yeah, I know. This is much more simple, much more effective. Would I read it with my 7-year-old son? No, I would not, because it's a little bit darker. It's a little bit PG-13. And I had to say that to somebody that messaged me about after I reviewed the first one. They were like, oh, I'm glad it's good. Me and my sons are really excited to read it. And I was like, no, man, hold back on that.
Yeah.
Because humans die brutally in this book.
Right. If you're
And
interested
where-
in reading it, pick it up, read it, and then make the
Yeah.
assessment. Don't like dive right into
For sure.
give it to
And
the kids.
kids are different for sure. So who knows? But like,
The first one, pretty much a whole book was an action sequence.
Yeah.
The whole book was them kind of crashing and realizing that they're on a different planet and the Decepticons are still after them. It's crazy. This starts off with a great character moment of Optimus Prime coming out of like the cave that they're kind of hiding in for the night and realizing, like, looking at the world and being like, wow, what beauty this planet has. It's so unbelievable. And then he accidentally, it's not meant to be funny, but it kind of is. He accidentally steps on a deer and kills it. And because he's a giant, heavy
Right.
robot. And then he's like so sad and grief stricken that he's accidentally killed something. It speaks a lot to his character in a way that I don't think I've ever felt for Optimus Prime ever as like a character or someone that like or creature that has emotions even. I'm like, oh, he's a
Right.
robot. I don't care about him. I can't get into him because he's a robot. That's kind of how I felt about it. And this immediately was like, oh, I get it. I get it. He's a giant robot thing that has an appreciation for the delicate fragility of Earth because it's so opposite of what he is. And like in that moment, it clicked with me in a way that it never has before. Like the whole Transformers thing.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite of that, there's great reactions. There's the two human characters that are
Shia
written
LaBeouf.
very well. And what's that?
I said Shia LaBeouf.
No, it's not Shia LaBeouf. It's a kid named Spike and his sister interacting with them in a way that like kind of humanizes them and obviously it like works for them to explain like we're from Cybertron and all this kind of
Right.
stuff, like exposition stuff. And on the other side, you got the Decepticons that are just like being very ruthless towards humanity. They refer to humans as squishies, which I think is really funny because they can be squished in their hands, which you saw in the end of the first issue. Spoiler alert. And this is great. This is great. There's one, I think it's, is this Starscream? I don't know the words, but like two fighter pilots eject from a plane to try to get away from him, and he just claps his hands around one of them and explodes in a bloody mess.
That's Starscream in a nutshell.
Yeah. So, anyway, this is a great series. It's a great series. It's a great book, and this comes out this week. This is a pre-release review this Wednesday. You can get this at Funky Town Comics, and you should. It's
Nice.
great. They're not doing a midnight release like they did for the first one, but if you like the first one, it ramps up.
I have
and
rarely
just-
seen a midnight release for a number 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, check it out. Funky Town Comics, Transformers this week. Daniel Warren Johnson, a great comic book creator. What else is coming out this week in your local comic book store? You got Amazing Spider-Man number 37, Army of Darkness Forever number 2, Batman number 139, Birds of Prey number 3. Hell yeah. Blue Beetle number 3, Captain Ginger, The Last Feeder number 1. That's from local comic book company Ahoy Comics. Check them out. Support local. Damn Them All number 10. Fire and Ice. Welcome to Smallville number 3. Grimm number 10. Guardians of the Galaxy number 8. House of Slaughter number 19. Icon versus Hardware number 5. Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing number 12. Petrol Head number 1. Poison Ivy number 16. Punisher number 1. New Punisher series. I didn't know that was going to happen. Shazam number 5. Star Trek Defiant number 9. Star Wars Darth Vader number 40. Star Wars The High Republic Shadows of Starlight number 2. Superman 78. The Metal Curtain. New 78 series. Thanos number 1. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 145. Transformers number 2. Aforementioned. Uncanny Spider-Man number 3. Vampirella Dracula's Rage number 3. X-Force number 46. And X-Men Red number 17. Bam. What's on your pull list? You still doing X? Are you doing X-Force too? Is that part of the Fall of X
That
stuff?
is part of Fall of X. I'm starting to shift off of that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinning.
Is it
I'm
wrapping
thinning
up or are
the,
you just sick of it?
It's both.
Okay.
There's a couple titles where like one of them switched artists and I just can't do the style they moved to.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's happened to me before.
Which is funny because I really like the story, but I just can't. It's not my
Yep,
bag.
I know, man. Yeah.
Um,
Tough. It's tough. Tough break.
and then dropped a couple. I know I'm going to be picking up the Ultimates when that drops, just because this week I am officially all caught up.
Ooh, I am not still, but I'm looking to get there this week. My
I'm
goal.
sure there's a bunch of crap in like random long boxes that I'm not caught up on, but everything that was
Sure.
on my pile, is no longer on my pile.
Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, I still
think
have
the
a bunch
only
of
thing.
collecteds too, but as you can see,
Yeah.
actually, right there,
Yeah, I see it.
that is a prime, the prime acquisition from this month, the complete Kelvin and Hobbes.
You got it.
I did because
Oh,
I was
amazing.
so disappointed. So we actually got it for my brother-in-law, and my wife was effectively, she effectively asked me, "Why didn't you get a copy for yourself too?" And I said, "I can as long as it's still on sale." So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but
Awesome.
yeah, so that'll be great. But Ultimate, or I can't remember what the hell they call the Ultimate Invasion, or no, not Ultimate Invasion, the Ultimates, or whatever the kickoff was for the Ultimate Universe, came out last week.
Ultimate Universe, I think, wasn't it called?
Might have been
Or-
Ultimate Universe. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't remember.
that'd make too
Too
much
many
sense.
Ultimate things.
Yeah, but that came out, very solid read. Also picked up Spider Boy, less solid read.
Oh yeah. Oh okay.
I don't know. It just doesn't do like Spidey doesn't need a Robin. I don't know.
I agree.
And
Out of
it was
place.
a very, I guess if you like the campy nature of Spider books, it might be fine, but it was not my, didn't hit the same feels that I needed it to. So that's a one and done. But it did have a cool JTC cover that I grabbed. So
Cool. Oh yeah, I saw that cover.
Yeah.
That was a great cover.
how about you?
Yeah.
Anything new, original?
No, I haven't read anything this week really. I'm this week I am pulling Birds of Prey 3 and Poison Ivy. I still haven't even read Birds of Prey number 2 yet, but now I'm excited. Now I'm going to wait until Wednesday so I can read number 2 and then immediately number 3 because number 1 was so strong that I'm excited to continue that series. It's definitely on my pull list. Poison Ivy has been great. I feel like I don't think I read the last Poison Ivy either, so I'm going to do a double shot of the both. I'm just like, like we were talking about, like Halloween just takes up so much of my time.
Right.
Like the
Now that you've made it through
party
it,
that I have, like, yeah, we're through it, so I can start catching up on stuff. So, so those are the ones I'm pulling. Who knows what else I will randomly pick up off the shelf. There's definitely some stuff I have in my pile that I forgot that I even have. So I'll see what I got. And go from there. Closing out with some one shots like we teased earlier. A couple quick stories, DC related stories. The Penguin series. This is all release date-ish related. The Penguin series for HBO Max has been pushed from spring 2024 to fall 2024. Not a super big push, but enough that I'm bummed out. But of course it's because of the strikes. Nothing they can do about it. Smart move to push it before the SAG strike is even over. Who knows? I don't know how much longer they have to film on that show. Bummed out because I just recently started rewatching The Batman again. I was up late one night. I felt like I didn't have anything to watch, and I was like, I need just like a comfort, relax, veg out, and watch movies. Like, oh yeah, The Batman. Boom. Such a great movie. Definitely am excited for the Penguin series whenever that happens.
Nice.
Looking like fall 2024. What is on track to come out and does not look like it's going to be pushed is the sequel to Joker. Joker Folie à Deux is nearly completed and will be on time for its October 24th release date. I guess it didn't have too much to do prior to the strikes going into effect, so they're still going to come out in time for next fall. And also, James Gunn has confirmed that Creature Commandos is still on track for coming out sometime in 2024. Despite, I guess, there was some rumor that it had been pushed to 2025. He clarified multiple times that is not the case. Still on track for seeing Creature Commandos, hopefully sooner rather than later. I would love a peek inside James Gunn's DCU as soon as we can possibly get it. So we'll see.
yeah, 2024 is going to be packed, I guess.
Shaping up
Seems
to
like-
be all right.
Seems like everything's going to be from like May or June later, but
Yeah, there's going to be a pretty big gap in our content, I feel like, because of the strikes, but
which
we'll
is
see.
I'm call me
It's fine with
call
me.
me crazy, I'm
fine with me.
enjoying this. Like the hose
I'll take
kind of
it.
turned down a little.
Yep, for
So,
sure.
But
For sure.
in 2024, as mentioned, the hose is going to crank up as House of the Dragon is officially eyeing a summer 24 release slate for their season 2. The series was not affected by the strikes, and scripts had already been completed. Also was not impacted by SAG-AFTRA strikes because it's all UK actors under a different union. So
All right.
that is that.
So they just kept filming the whole day. There was no interruption of that show at all.
Right.
Wow.
They
Good for
are of other note. They are also targeting 24 for Rings of Power season 2. So we will be.
Oh,
In the
that's
same-
right. They
same
kept
kind of
filming
boat.
too, I think.
Yep, same kind of situation, I think.
Steve, I don't know if I'm gonna watch House of the Dragons too. I
I
don't
will
know.
because my wife will want to. So
Because here's the thing, I didn't finish season 1.
Mm.
I liked it fine, but I got distracted and I didn't watch like the last 2 episodes.
I mean, there's
And
a
I
lot of
don't
other things
feel
coming
like-
out.
And I don't feel like I need to watch the last 2 episodes. So I don't know. I know we were like covering that show for this podcast. I don't know. I may see if you want to get someone else to watch to cover House of the Dragon with, because I don't know if I want to even watch it. No offense, like it was great, fine, it was good,
Yeah.
but like I just don't know if it's on my list of things I need to watch.
Understandable.
I don't know.
Absolutely
I don't
understandable.
know. Rings of Power, I will watch. I thought Rings of Power was great. I will watch Rings of Power for sure. So we'll see. We'll see when it gets here. Maybe
Oh, yeah.
I'll cave.
We still got a long ways till that. Although it'll be here
Hey.
before we know it.
It's also possible that House of Dragon will be the only new television show that's on during the summer of 2024. So if that's the case, maybe I'll watch it just to fill some time. But until then, I think that's all I got. Steve, you got anything else?
No, I've got nothing. Check us out on the socials if you feel like getting in contact with us. The Multiverse Report and most of them Multiverse Report on Blue Sky, maybe. I don't know. Either way, if you Google us, we're there.
We're on Threads now too. We're on
Oh,
Threads.
yeah, that's it. That was that other one. I knew I
Yep.
was forgetting something. Feel free to please subscribe, like, review, leave comments, all the above. Really
All
helps
that
us out. Anything on Apple Podcasts would be a absolute bonus and boon and assistance. Please leave a review there. And beyond that, I don't know. Whatever you got. Oh, thanks
I
for
got
the
nothing.
subscribe, Travis.
Hey, thanks, Travis. And thanks for chiming in and asking questions and giving us some examples. That was great. I really like the engagement with the chat. That's awesome. Thanks,
absolutely.
Travis. So I guess that's it. So until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the multiverse.